What's going on YouTube? Dottz Gaming here, and today I have a bit of a fun video for you guys, and we are going to be doing a tier list on the World of Warcraft expansions. Just keep in mind that this tier list is going to be my personal opinion. I know some people have very strong feelings about certain expansions for World of Warcraft, but I just want to go over, what I think is the best expansion, the worst expansion, and all of the ones in between. I'm just going to be doing some for fun tier lists this upcoming week. I had a really busy week, so I didn't have a crap load of time to sit down and make like a guide or something. So I figured, you know what, this could be something really fun to do and something to talk about. Now, let's start off with the current expansion, Battle for Azeroth, the one that obviously just passed, and we're moving towards Shadowlands. Shadowlands isn't in this list, by the way, but I'll tell you where I think it's going to rank. Battle for Azeroth, yeah, D. And I'm not just doing that because it's the popular thing to do or the popular thing to say, but it was actually the only expansion of World of Warcraft that I did not play, simply because I thought it was really bad. From what I've seen about Battle for Azeroth, I'd say the most positive thing about the expansion was the raiding. I heard that, many people really did enjoy the raiding in BFA, but from a PvP perspective, which is my favorite activity to do in the game, to me, it was nothing short of an unmitigated disaster. Like, having all of the trinkets just be so dominant in PvP, the fact that there was the awkward PvP scaling, there were no PvP vendors, all of the gearing was completely RNG, you had corruptions in 8.3, it felt like you had to do so many chores every week, and none of them were really enjoyable. It was just not my expansion at all. I really disliked it. Just honestly was not for me. Now I'm gonna actually go to the other end of the spectrum because this is an easy one for me. Wrath of the Lich King, S tier, baby. I'm obviously going to be very partial towards Wrath of the Lich King because Wrath of the Lich King is when I started playing World of Warcraft, and so I definitely have the rose-colored glasses from when I was a noob and I just started WoW, and I just loved Wrath, man. It felt like a really good time to get started in the game. There was a lot of the elements of classic WoW where there was no assistance with like following quests and stuff, so you had to actually read the quest log. Death Knights were such a cool class introduced during the expansion. I thought all of the raids were really cool, and even me, like when I started Wrath of the Lich King, one of the things that I liked immediately was that even though I didn't raid, even though I only really just did like dungeons, I barely even PvP during Wrath. Again, I was a brand new player, so all I really did was like questing in dungeons and level up classes and stuff. I dabbled in PvP a little bit, mostly in Battlegrounds, but one of my favorite things about Wrath of the Lich King, besides the fact that I just thought the zones were really cool, I thought Death Knights were really cool, you still had the old talent trees, you had a lot of the elements of the older versions of WoW that were still in the game that really made it feel like an old school MMO. But one of the things that I really liked about it, and that I'm hoping that we see again with Shadowlands, and I think it's looking like it's going to be that way, is that the questing was really great. It felt like everything that you did in Wrath of the Lich King was being put towards an end goal, was being put towards going to Icecrown Citadel and defeating the Lich King. Everything felt like it had a purpose. It felt like you were building up to that big boss fight with Arthas, and I really enjoyed that. Some of the other expansions like Mists of Pandaria, didn't really have that, at least I feel, and the big boss of the expansion, it just didn't have as much impact for me. It felt a little disjointed, but I'll get to Mop in a second. But that's one of the things it looks like they're kind of doing in Shadowlands again too, where you're going to be helping all of the different covenants out in the different zones, and your big end game, end goal is to eventually fight and defeat the jailer. And I like that, because even somebody who doesn't raid, which I didn't at the time, it felt like I was actually still working towards something. And so for that reason, I really liked Wrath. Thought it was a super fun expansion, and I absolutely loved it. The next one we'll probably do Warlords of Draenor. So this might be surprising, but there's one key reason why I'm about to do this. Warlords is going to be a C tier expansion. I personally enjoyed WoD more than Battle for Azeroth. not because it was a particularly great expansion. I think in a lot of regards, it was just as bad as BFA, but I think the key difference between BFA and Warlords for me is that the Warlords PvP gearing system was, in my opinion, the single best iteration of PvP gearing that Blizzard has ever implemented into the game. I thought it was fantastic. It was a really reasonable system between PvP and PvE, and I really, really liked it. And so that's, like, for me, the only reason that Warlords kind of ranks above BFA. It was really, you know, there's a huge drought in terms of content. Ashran was awful. The lore was a bit of a mess. But overall, you know, it was probably just as bad as BFA, but the only reason it gets a little bit rank above is because, in my opinion, the gearing system during that expansion was better. So for that reason, it does rank above Battle for Azeroth for me personally. Now, my next expansion, I'm kind of going now random now, is going to be Mists of Pandaria. And for me, I'm going to probably give MOP an A. I really enjoyed Mists of Pandaria from a PvP perspective. Pretty much every class was viable. The gearing system was great. It was just a super fun expansion. The reason it's not an S tier X pack for me is because from a PvE and questing side of things, like, I really did enjoy the zones, but I didn't feel as, like, motivated. This may just be me. I could be wrong in this regards, but at least for me personally, I didn't feel as motivated or connected to the questing and PvE content. It just kind of felt like I'm some guy that showed up on an island and, yeah, there's some stuff going on, but it's like, all right, you know, whatever. Yeah, like, I don't know. It didn't feel as impactful. It didn't feel as pressing that we need to get all these objectives done to make sure that we can move towards fighting this big end game boss. That's something that Wrath did have, and Mists of Pandaria didn't really have that. I did think the zones were beautiful, though, which is one of the reasons it is an A tier. I really liked the zones. I think Monk's a pretty cool class. I do really enjoy it. Like I said, the PvP balance wise, I think it was one of the best it's ever been. Class design was really, really good. The gearing process was really solid. It was just overall a very, very solid expansion. It's not my number one favorite, which is why I'm not giving it an S, but it's pretty dang close. It is an A tier expansion for me. I just thought it was a really good time from a PvP perspective. I can't really speak from a rating perspective on that expansion because, again, it was very similar. I just really kind of did dungeons and PvP, but while it did have some shortfalls and some miscomings, of course, I really think from a PvP perspective and gearing perspective, it was an amazing expansion. So that's why it gets an A for me. The next expansion, I will admit, so I never played Classic or Burning Crusade. Okay, so the rankings that I'm going to give to them are going to be what I think I would feel about them. So I'm just going to preface that. I've played like a little bit of Classic with WoW Classic, and obviously there's no Burning Crusade servers yet, so I've never played it. So I'm going to go based off what I think I would enjoy about it. Burning Crusade for me will probably be an A tier expansion, a little bit behind. I don't know, again, if it would be behind or in front of MOP, but I'm going to give it an A tier. The reason I give it an A tier is because I love Blood Elves. I think they're super cool. So Blood Elves got introduced in this expansion, and the questing zone for them was really, really nice. Draenor were introduced as well. It was the first time we got a brand new race for both the Alliance and Horde and WoW. We also got Paladins and Shamans on the opposite factions. Arena was introduced into the game. I thought Outland is a super, super cool location to go to. Flying was introduced into the game. Like, it basically just took classic vanilla WoW and just made it better. And so for that reason, I think if I did play during Burning Crusade, I really, really would have liked it. From what I know about it, though, because it was kind of the first time PvP was introduced for Arena, I did hear that the balance for it was a bit wonky, was a bit all over the place. And, you know, in the case of Arena, MOP was better balanced in terms of PvP. But one thing that I personally really loved about Burning Crusade is the fact that, again, it was very similar to Wrath of the Lich King in the regards of, we need to kill Illidan in Black Temple. We need to get Kael'thas over another storm. Like, there were big boss monsters that it felt like we need to go take these guys down. We're working towards this. And what I also liked about both Wrath and both Burning Crusade, and is why I have them ranked high, is that the raids were challenging. You know, they weren't a walk in the park. They were challenging, and they pushed groups to their limits. And I personally really enjoy that about an expansion and about a raid. You know, I like to, if I'm going to raid, I like to be challenged when it comes to the raids. And so I think for that reason, Burning Crusade was definitely one of the better expansions that Blizzard has ever output. And for that reason, it is going on my A tier. Now, I know the next thing that I do is going to piss off a lot of people, but this is just my opinion, okay? I personally would put Classic at like a B. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I've tried Classic a couple times. I've tried to get into it. Maybe I just didn't pick the right class, but it was just okay. You know, it was okay. It's obviously the oldest version of the game. It's when the game first came out, so you know, it's a bit slower paced. It's obviously got, you know, just a more old school game. It's a more old school MMO. And for that reason, I do really enjoy certain things about it. But compared to the way that the game kind of progressed over time, it was way slower paced than the game is now, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen. Things just moved a bit slower. And, you know, for that, like I'm a very combat oriented person, you know, and so for me, I like it to be a little bit more fast paced. And so having combat that was a little slow like that, I wasn't really the biggest fan of. But on the other side of the coin, I've been playing some Classic. I'm going to try to maybe to a different class and see if I enjoy it a little bit more. But one of the things that I do like about Classic is a lot of the Classic elements that it has. I like the fact that, okay, I need to go to a Warlock trainer to learn Warlock skills. If I want to get a new demon, I have to go on a quest to earn that demon. I like that it takes a while to learn how to do the writing skill. I like that leveling isn't just a walk in the park, and it is something you have to think about and you have to plan your pulls. It is obviously a little bit grindy. It is an older school game, but you know, the fact that it's an older school game, that's some good things about it, and there's some bad things about it. But overall for me, it's pretty fun. It's not my favorite, but it's, you know, it's a solid MMO experience in my opinion. Again, it's just not my personal like favorite thing. Like I would never, if you had to say, Dottz, you could get a private server right now, what would you want? I would definitely choose Burning Crusade, Wrath, or even Mop before I chose Classic, just because I love Arena. I love those 3 expansions. I thought they were great. The gameplay was a bit faster paced in those as well. So, you know, I just enjoyed those a bit more. But Classic, having those old school elements that I really do like, is why it is a B tier expansion for me. The next one is going to be Legion. Now, I will admit with Legion, okay, I only played like the beginning of Legion, which was when it was arguably at its worst. I heard that, you know, I've been told from multiple people on my stream that Legion improved drastically over the course of its expansion, and that the beginning of it was kind of when it was at its worst point. So I did unfortunately miss the best parts of it. And I have been debating where to put Legion. And I think for me, it's going to probably be a B tier expansion for me personally. I really loved the whole class order hall thing. I thought that was really sweet. I loved that you were just truly, it was like about having the different class orders all coming together to fight Sargeras. You know, like I thought that was really cool. I loved the whole embracing the classes. I love the whole artifact system. I thought that was pretty sweet, getting to use the old weapons of the past. They got so many new cool passives and abilities with it too. But you know, I don't know. There was just I don't remember, because it's been so long since I played it, and again, I didn't really play it that much, but it was just, for me, it wasn't my favorite expansion in the world. You know, there were some things that I liked about it, some things that I didn't dislike. I definitely did not like the AP grind. Oh my god, that was effing miserable. But I don't know. It was just a solid expansion for me. There wasn't anything that stood out about it like, oh my god, this is so amazing, this is so great, kind of like the 3 that I have ranked in A and S do. There wasn't anything that I particularly remember that I was like, this is just amazing, like this is the best. But you know, there wasn't anything that was like, oh, this is awful, you know, this is not good. Like it was just a very solid expansion. And so for that reason, I'm going to give it a B plus. So overall, I thought it was just pretty good. The last one that we have on our list is Cataclysm. I have been really debating where to put Cataclysm. I am super unsure. Because Cataclysm was right after Wrath, obviously. That's when they redid the talent trees, and they had their older versions of the talent trees that were like kind of like an in-between. You could tell that it was like a shoulder between getting rid of the way that the old talent trees were and moving towards what we have now. They also completely destroyed the old world, and there were some things that, you know, people loved and remembered about the old world that they miss now, and those are no longer there. But at the same token, you know, it was interesting in concept to be like, you know, we're going to revamp the old world and have you quest there instead of sending you to a new place. It's definitely a tough one for me. For me, it's either going to be a high C or a low B. I think if I played during Classic, I would have enjoyed Classic more than I enjoyed Cata. But at the same token, Cata was definitely not worse than WoD or PFA. Like it was not that low. To me, Cata is like, I think in a shoulder between B and C. Like if I could put a C plus, I think I would do that and just put it right in between, because I do, like I said, I think it was better than WoD, but I don't necessarily think it was better than these expansions. So I think I'll just leave it right here for now. Again, Shadowlands, or excuse me, Cataclysm is when they started to kind of move away from like the old talent trees, and I really enjoyed the old talent trees. So it was kind of when they started to move away from those, and the ones that they had in Cata, I don't think were as like rough. They just weren't as good as either the way we have it now or the old way. I just think it was like this like in-between thing where they weren't sure what they wanted to do with talents, and so they just had that system in the game. From a PvP perspective, Gurthalok, as well as I believe it was the legendary rogue daggers, were just like a menace. So those were definitely tough in arena. You can still gear through PvP gear though, so I did really enjoy that part of the expansion. The raid I heard was not very good. I didn't like Dragon Soul either when I just run it for transmog. I did not enjoy it. I thought Firelands was really cool, but Dragon Soul was definitely for me. I was not a big fan. So I think I'm going to, you know what? I think the high C is the best. Now, Shadowlands. Where do I think Shadowlands is going to land on this here tier list? Where do I think it's going to go? My hope, and where, just based off of what I'm seeing from Shadowlands, if I was to take a guess, I think Shadowlands is going to be like a B tier expansion, very similar to like a Legion type deal, where it's going to have some stuff that's pretty cool about it. It's going to have some stuff that's pretty annoying about it, but I don't think it's going to be like amazing. You know, at least at this point where I'm making this video right now, I'm making this on 10/23. There's still a lot of stuff about Shadowlands that needs to be worked out, a lot of weird balance stuff going on, a lot of weird tuning, and I feel like because Shadowlands is definitely one of the more intricate expansions that Blizzard has ever output, it's going to take a lot of tuning to make sure that the expansion is as good as possible, and I think Shadowlands will live and die by the tuning process, and so I am skeptical but hopeful. And so I don't know, I think that because it's so intricate and stuff, and you know, I personally think that they're going to try to do the best that they can, but I don't think they're going to necessarily get it perfect. So for that reason, I don't think it's going to be as good as MoP or BC or Wrath was. It's just going to be a matter of, is it going to be as good as Legion was? So I think it's going to be somewhere either, high B or low B. We're just going to have to kind of see. That's where I think it's going to land. I think that after Battle for Azeroth, I don't think they could afford a C tier expansion. They needed to be at least like a B tier. They needed to be like another Legion. Legion was a really solid expansion. And so I think that that's where it needs to land. I also do like that it is very cosmetic focused. I like they're bringing PvP vendors back. Covenants I like in theory, but a lot of their systems are going to be really restrictive. The new zones look really cool. The concept of the new raids look really awesome. So for that reason, I do think it's going to be a solid expansion, but there's definitely some weird tuning things that are going on right now. Balance is a bit wonky. PvP gear currently is going to take you 300 years to acquire. The PvE trinkets are going to be a menace in PvP. So we're going to, and I know some people are not happy with the class designs either right now. So we're going to kind of have to see where it all lands. But for right now, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a solid B. But that is going to be my current list for the expansions on their tier list. What do you guys think? What are your favorite expansions? Do you guys agree with my tier list? How would you shuffle it around? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. And if you guys did like this video, please smack a like on it and subscribe for more World of Warcraft content as we move towards Shadowlands. Probably going to be putting in a lot of content on PvP for Feral Druids, as well as probably even some Guardian Druid tanking. Now that I'm going to be playing WoW a lot more than I have been in the past, going to be getting into raiding and more heavily into PvE as well, and I think we're gonna try tanking. So I think it's going to be a really good time. But thank you all so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I'm Dottz Gaming, and I'll see y'all in the next one.